Tanks outside! Click, click, click. Wait. Click! Go, 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 go. Oh, yeah.
Months after violent rioters lit squad cars on fire and pepper-sprayed federal agents across Los Angeles, the government struck back. 97 people arrested in sweeping raids that stunned the city. The riots began in June when crowds blocked freeways and threw rocks, fireworks, and flammable materials at officers. Squad vehicles were set on fire as downtown Los Angeles descended into chaos.
And it's not just rocks, it's been bricks as well and other objects, lethal objects that have the potential to kill or really hurt one of our law enforcement officers.
According to DHS, officers from multiple agencies were viciously assaulted as violence spread across the city, with many of them sustaining injuries. For months after, nothing happened. Everyone thought the government had simply forgotten about it, until now.
Violence in any form, specifically targeted at law enforcement, is unacceptable and illegal. You will be arrested, you will be charged, and you will face serious prison time.
In November, Homeland Security, the FBI, and the ATF launched coordinated operations across Southern California, arresting suspects linked to the summer violence. The investigation marked one of the largest federal responses to civil unrest in Los Angeles in recent years.
We will not tolerate violence against officers who are simply doing their job. I want to be clear, this is not a game.
Tonight, we go inside the raids, the evidence, and the investigation to see how Los Angeles became the front line in America's latest war over law, order, and resistance. On the evening of June 8, 2025, the heart of Los Angeles turned into a pressure chamber. What began as scattered protests over federal immigration raids evolved into running clashes between demonstrators and law enforcement.
Several government vehicles were damaged and a federal contract employee was injured as a rock went through her vehicle window, shattering the glass and striking her.
The first confrontation erupted downtown near Los Angeles Street. Police officers reported rocks, glass bottles, and fireworks thrown from overpasses. California Highway Patrol units trying to disperse the crowd also came under attack. They had concrete debris rained down onto their patrol cars below. LAPD Chief Jim McDonnell called it one of the most dangerous nights his officers had faced in years. "We are overwhelmed. There is no limit to what they are doing to our officers." By dawn, at least 4 officers had suffered concussions and lacerations. Streets were sealed. Smoke lingered where fire crews had extinguished burning trash cans and abandoned scooters. But that was only the beginning. What was coming was nothing like the officers had ever seen before. 2 days later, the violence spread. More than 2,000 protesters marched onto the 101 freeway, a major artery of downtown Los Angeles. They blocked all the lanes, chanting against immigration and customs enforcement, while drivers were trapped in place. According to NBC Los Angeles, police in riot gear moved in to contain the crowd, but they did not find it easy. The demonstrators became enraged and refused to leave. Five driverless Waymo taxis were vandalized, their windows shattered, and bodies spray painted before being set on fire. The decision to set those taxis on fire was particularly sinister because robo-taxis have lithium-ion battery packs. Each I-Pace can carry roughly 90 kilowatt-hours of stored chemical energy, comparable to about 170 pounds, 77 kilograms, of TNT. That energy is distributed across hundreds of lithium-ion pouch cells, which are sealed in flammable electrolyte and separated by polymer films as thin as snack bag plastic. When any one cell is punctured or overheated or set aflame with an incendiary device, chemical reactions generate more heat than the cell can shed, and neighboring cells follow in a chain reaction. The phenomenon sent temperatures past 1,000 degrees Celsius, vaporized much of the cars, and sent lung-searing toxic gas into the air, forcing firefighters to cordon off nearby blocks.
We're working with the ATF to seek individuals responsible for igniting a Waymo taxi during that same time frame.
2 motorcyclists attempted to break through the skirmish line. Both were arrested after colliding with officers. The freeway was reopened briefly, only to be closed again hours later when rioters began dropping debris onto the southbound lanes. By nightfall, downtown Los Angeles was declared an unlawful assembly area.
Government and private property were vandalized. Los Angeles police declared an unlawful assembly, yet the violence continued.
On July 10th, another confrontation unfolded in the quiet outskirts of Camarillo. Homeland Security agents were executing a federal search warrant at a marijuana farm when a convoy of activists arrived. According to Department of Homeland Security reports and witness statements, the activists surrounded the exit, using vehicles to block federal cars from leaving. As agents tried to withdraw, rioters hurled rocks and burning debris.
In federal vehicles and debris as the agents left on a farm raid back in July.
The clashes marked the point where protest met federal jurisdiction. Mayor Karen Bass urged calm, insisting that the raids had provoked unnecessary fear. When you run armored caravans through our streets, you cause fear and you cause panic. Hours later, President Donald Trump ordered 2,000 National Guard troops to Los Angeles. Only 300 had arrived by the following day, as violence flared across multiple districts. By mid-July, what began as protests had left dozens injured and dozens more in custody. The violence of that summer would become the foundation of a federal manhunt, one that would unfold months later under the glare of national attention. For months, it looked like the chaos had burned itself out. But behind closed doors, federal agents were putting together their own plan, the quiet start of one of the biggest anti-riot crackdowns in years. Inside Homeland Security's Los Angeles field office, agents replayed hours of riot footage, frame by frame. Though most of the rioters were wearing masks, still they tracked faces, clothing, license plates, anything that can match them to posts, texts, and live streams.
Filmed on cell phones by local news and other media, throwing rocks, bottles, and objects, including objects on fire from an overpass on Main and Los Angeles Street here in downtown LA.
What they found was bigger than one night of chaos. Some of the same people seen on the freeway were also spotted days later at the Camarillo on a raid. The Department of Justice decided to act. U.S. Attorney Bill Asaley authorized a series of coordinated operations under federal riot and obstruction statutes, targeting the agitators caught on video.
We will also, without fear or favor, deliver consequences and bring accountability to those that would assault, impede, or obstruct federal law enforcement officers or destroy government property.
The first wave of arrests hit before sunrise. Homeland Security, FBI, and ATF agents rolled through South Los Angeles, Ventura County, and parts of the San Fernando Valley. 12 suspects were taken in that morning alone.
We were embedded in a sweeping federal sting across Southern California yesterday. The feds arrested 12 people they say engaged in violence during this summer's riots here in Los Angeles.
One of them was Isaiah Carrillo, the man seen on video smashing federal car windows with a metal pole during the Camarillo raid.
One of the suspects, Isaiah Carrillo, was arrested at the scene as he attempted to flee from law enforcement.
Another was Virginia Reyes, accused of using her car to block agents from leaving.
Federal law enforcement described Virginia Reyes as a known anti-ICE agitator. The feds say one photo shows her trying to film inside a law enforcement officer's car, potentially to dox that officer. Police say she intentionally conspired to block federal agents' cars in.
But that's not even the most shocking part. Ever wondered how rioters are able to mobilize and gather within a moment's notice? Well, turns out they're all a part of a group.
They call themselves this rapid response network, which there's a lot of groups who are doing this. And let's be clear, their job is to obstruct and impede immigration agents.
VC Defensa is one of many groups scattered across the U.S. Their one purpose is to turn peaceful protests into raging riots, releasing their vicious members onto unsuspecting law enforcement agents.
So as soon as they see agents conducting a law enforcement operation, they activate people to show up, to harass the agents, to get in their way, to film them, try to identify them. That's their purpose.
Agents traced how the network spread, Telegram channels, group texts, live updates. It wasn't random at all, like they had previously though. It was organized chaos.
The actions taken by these suspects and others on July 10th and other related incidents were neither speech nor peaceful.
By the end of that week, the number climbed. 97 people were charged, 39 indicted, 18 already pleading guilty. The rest, still under investigation.
Federal law enforcement says they have now arrested 97 people in relation to the riots and protests here this summer.
And it didn't stop there. The FBI released new images of suspects wanted for assaulting officers and torching vehicles. One man, accused of firing a weapon during the Camarillo raid, had a $100,000 reward on his head. According to investigators, they were just getting started. The raids revealed how far the summer violence had spread and how deep federal agencies were willing to go to pull it apart. But what came next would divide Los Angeles all over again. When the raids ended, Homeland Security called the operation a success. But to local business owners who had their businesses destroyed during the riots, success looked different. They had had their windows shattered. To make it worse, streets had closed for weeks, and these businesses lost customers they could never get back. City leaders blamed federal raids for escalating fear. Federal agents blamed city officials for letting it spread in the first place. No one agreed on who lost control, only that Los Angeles had paid the price. The FBI offered rewards, up to $100,000, for information leading to their capture.
There is an active federal criminal arrest warrant issued for Virginia Reyes, and she is to be considered a fugitive.
But finding them wasn't the only challenge. The city itself had to decide what came next. Because when the smoke cleared, it wasn't only about arrests or politics anymore. It was about trust and whether the next flash of violence was already on its way. By fall, what started as chaos on the streets was now playing out in courts as the rioters were arraigned. Prosecutors charged 97 people under federal statutes for assaulting or obstructing law enforcement. U.S. Attorney Bill Asaley told reporters these weren't political arrests, they were about accountability.
The consequences here are extremely serious. Just last week, we had an individual who rammed his vehicle at our agents, and he was shot by law enforcement. So not only was he shot, he was also charged with assault, and now he's looking up to 20 years in federal prison. So again, this isn't a game.
18 defendants have pleaded guilty so far. 39 were indicted by a grand jury. The rest waited as their cases moved through the system.
That is a felony, a federal felony that carries a statutory maximum sentence of 5 years in federal prison. 2 defendants charged in today's complaint were recorded lighting debris on fire and throwing it at CHP vehicles, pouring what appeared to be flammable liquid, which increased the size of the flames.
Inside the courtroom, defense attorneys argued that some clients were not a part of the riot. They were simply peaceful protesters caught in the chaos. But federal prosecutors came prepared. They countered with videos showing Molotov cocktails, rocks, and burning cars in the hands of those supposed peaceful protesters. The FBI also showed new evidence, surveillance clips linking several defendants to the Camarillo farm attack. They released new images of fugitives still on the run. But not everyone supported the crackdown. Civil rights groups accused federal agents of sinister intentions. They warned that blurring the line between protest and riot could hinder free speech. What happens next when the fires are out, but the anger's still burning? The violence in Los Angeles wasn't an isolated storm. It was a preview. In Chicago, police and ICE teams reported coordinated attacks on patrol cars during deportation operations. In Portland, federal buildings were once again under siege. Homeland Security officers faced homemade explosives and industrial lasers. Officials say the same online groups promoting the LA riots reappeared. They changed their names to try to blend in, but not their tactics. Investigators describe it as a moving network, not one city, but many, testing the limits of law enforcement in real time. Every time a new protest turns violent, agents see familiar faces, familiar accounts, and the same call signs.
Acting U.S. Attorney Bill Asaley issuing this warning to anyone considering violence against immigration agents.
I want to be very clear. Every American has a right to peacefully protest. What is not constitutionally protected is a right to engage in violence or to impede federal agents by assaulting, doxing, or obstructing their operations.
In New York, riot teams trained using footage from Los Angeles as a case study. Federal briefings now reference LA-style escalations, meaning peaceful protest that turns into flash violence within minutes. According to officials, the Los Angeles crackdown became the model. The FBI, DHS, and local task forces now share real-time protest data, cross-referencing faces and social media posts to find the perpetrators before violence can spread. Agents are now required to undergo specific riot training to help them manage the confrontations and escalations. And according to reports, the training seems to be working.
They seem very motivated and focused on their mission. And Sandra, even yesterday when we were embedded, there were a lot of agitators that showed up, people cursing out the agents, threatening violence against them. And the agents just simply stayed focused on their mission.
What happened in Los Angeles changed how the government responds to unrest, but it also changed how people see protest itself. A reminder that one spark in one city can trigger a nationwide chain reaction. Every city is watching, every agency is on alert, and every protest now carries a question that wasn't there before. What happens when the next crowd crosses the line? In a country still trying to balance freedom with control, Los Angeles wasn't just a riot, it was a warning.
Not only are these actions dangerous, they're also ineffective. We have not and we will not stop our immigration enforcement operations. Nothing will stop us. Nothing.
Federal agents say this isn't over. They're already tracking new networks, the same faces, new cities, maybe even closer than anyone thinks. What happens when the next riot breaks out and the line between protest and war disappears again? Drop a comment below. Do you think federal crackdowns stop the violence or make it worse? And make sure to subscribe so you don't miss what happens next.